Rain had just stopped when Michael pulled into the driveway of his quiet two-story duplex. From the outside, everything looked peaceful. The flowers glistened, the air was fresh, and the lights made the house glow like a happy home. Anyone passing by would think he and Ada Ora lived a perfect life. And for a long time, everyone believed that. In church, older couples whispered, "Learn from them." At work functions, colleagues admired how organized Ada Ora looked beside her husband. On Instagram, their matching outfits during Christmas got hundreds of likes. But beneath all that perfection, things had been falling apart silently. Ada Ora felt it first. The little changes, the emotional distance, the late nights with excuses that had no weight. Michael walked in with his laptop bag slung over his shoulder, rehearsing yet another excuse about a client meeting that ran late. Ada Ora looked up from her laptop, her tired eyes soft but observant. "You're back," she said simply. "Yeah, long day," he responded. She nodded and returned her attention to her work. No questions, no complaints, no attempt to start a conversation. And that silence was louder than any argument. 6 months ago, she asked him everything. "Why are you late? Who called you? Why do you smell like someone else's perfume?" He denied, until she stopped asking. The truth was simple. Michael was cheating, and the guilt was beginning to rot him from the inside. Because the more Ada Ora withdrew, the more he realized what he stood to lose. That night, Ada Ora placed his food on the table without a word. He watched her quietly, trying to read her mood. She moved like someone saving her energy for something bigger. He didn't know it yet, but her calmness was not peace. It was preparation. Amora was troubled from the moment she entered Michael's life. Pretty, confident, a little wild, she had everything Ada Ora didn't have time for anymore. What began as small flirting became something dangerous when Amora realized Michael liked attention. He felt young around her, alive, important, and she used that. But Amora didn't want to remain a secret forever. She wanted to take Ada Ora's place. It irritated her that Michael still respected his wife publicly, that he refused to be seen with her in open places, that he always hid her. "Why can't you post me?" she asked one evening, lying on his chest in a hotel room. "Don't start," Michael said. "You know my situation." "Your situation is that you still love your wife," she snapped. "Tell yourself the truth." Michael didn't respond, not because she was wrong, but because she was right. That night, Amora made a decision. If Michael would not leave Ada Ora voluntarily, she would force him to. She started sending him bold pictures, calling him at odd hours, hinting she was ready to expose everything. Michael tried to calm her, but Amora was already imagining herself becoming the main woman. She didn't know the mistake she was about to make, one that would change everything for all three of them. One Saturday night, while Michael was out with his friends, Amora took a risky step. She stood in front of her mirror, took a seductive nude photo, and captioned it, "Remember what you're missing." She sent it to Michael immediately. He didn't reply. That annoyed her. She wanted to resend it to catch his attention, just to irritate him a little. She tapped forward, scrolled to M, so the first name that started with M, and pressed send without double-checking. But the message didn't go to Michael. It went to Michael's wife, Ada Ora. Amora froze. Her heart dropped. She panicked and threw her phone on the bed. She tried to delete the message, but it was too late. Meanwhile, in the quiet living room at home, Ada Ora heard her phone buzz. Expecting a message from her sister, she unlocked it casually. Then everything around her eye went silent. On the screen was a full nude photo of a young woman, with a bold message underneath. "Tell your husband I'm tired of hiding." Ada Ora stared at the image for a long moment. No tears, no scream, no shaking. Instead, something inside her snapped, and strangely, the first thing she felt was calm. Ada Ora stayed still for almost a minute, staring at the phone as if her brain needed time to process what her eyes already knew. She set the phone down gently and took a slow breath. A part of her wanted to collapse, another part wanted to rage, but the dominant part, the one shaped by years of disappointment, chose silence. She began washing the plates calmly. She cleaned the kitchen. She arranged the living room. It wasn't avoidance. It was the beginning of alignment. Her mind, her emotions, and her future shaping themselves. When Michael came home later that night, he was ready with another excuse. He wasn't prepared for what was waiting. Ada Ora didn't shout. She didn't accuse. She simply handed him the phone with the photo open. Michael's blood went cold. His tongue dried instantly. Ada Ora, wait, it's not. She didn't let him finish. She just said quietly, I know everything. He collapsed on the couch, shaking. I'm sorry, please. But instead of crying, she walked past him and said something that confused him more than the exposure itself. Don't worry. I'm not leaving. Michael looked up sharply. Not leaving? What did that mean? Relief? Or danger? Ada Ora didn't clarify. She went to bed. The calmness scared him more than anger ever could. Michael swallowed hard. What does that mean? Ada Ora closed her makeup drawer calmly, wiped her hands with a towel, and turned to face him fully. Her voice was clear, steady, frighteningly controlled. It means, she said, that the version of me you've taken for granted is gone. Michael's breath caught. She continued before he could speak. I begged for communication. You ignored me. I cried. You dismissed me. I asked questions. You lied. So now, I will give you exactly what you gave me, silence. Michael felt his chest tighten. Ada Ora, please. I made a mistake, but I love you. She tilted her head slightly, observing him the way someone observes a stranger. If you loved me, you would have protected me. He had no answer. Ada Ora picked up her handbag, her perfume, and her car keys. I'm going out, she said. At this time, he panicked. Yes. With who? She laughed softly, the first laugh he had heard from her in weeks. But it held pain, not joy. You never told me where you were going. Why do you suddenly care where I go? That statement hit him like a slap. He tried to touch her arm again. She stepped aside. Please, don't do this to us, he whispered. Ada Ora looked at him with an expression that broke him completely, an expression that said you already did this. I'm not punishing you, she said quietly. I'm protecting myself. She walked toward the door. Michael followed helplessly. Ada Ora, tell me what you want me to do. Tell me how to fix this. She paused, her hand on the door handle, but she didn't turn around. Start by fixing yourself, she said. I'm not responsible for cleaning the mess you created. She opened the door and stepped out. Before closing it, she added the last sentence that left Michael standing like a ghost in his own home. When I come back, we will talk. But understand this, Michael, the way you knew me before ended the moment that girl sent me that picture. I'm not the same woman you betrayed. The door shut softly, not angrily, and somehow that softness hurt more. Michael stayed frozen in the living room for almost 5 minutes. No shouting, no chaos, no thrown objects, just silence, and that silence was the loudest punishment he had ever experienced. Ada Ora didn't return home until late evening. She walked in calmly, placed a bag on the sofa, and began removing her earrings. She didn't ask Michael why he was still awake. She didn't ask if he had eaten. She didn't even look at him long enough for him to read her expression, and that calm terrified him. Can we talk now? Michael asked softly. Not today, she replied without emotion. He stood there confused. But you said... I changed my mind. The more silent she became, the more Michael's mind spiraled. Every minute felt like a punishment. Ada Ora started sleeping with her phone under her pillow. She stopped asking where he went. She stopped explaining where she was going. She came home later, left earlier, cooked only what she wanted, laughed at her phone more. Michael felt like he was losing her by the second. What he didn't know was that Ada Ora had already started planning her emotional exit. She updated her CV, started saving money aggressively, joined professional WhatsApp group, rekindled friendships he told her to stop talking to, and began attending women's development events at church. She wasn't leaving the marriage. She was leaving the version of herself that tolerated nonsense. 2 days later, Michael found documents on the dining table, bank statements, job listings, a real estate brochure for a small apartment. His heart dropped. Are you leaving me? He asked shakily. Ada Ora looked at him with a deadpan expression. If I were leaving, you wouldn't need to ask. She walked away, leaving him drowning in uncertainty. Amora, meanwhile, was losing her mind. Michael had blocked her everywhere: WhatsApp, calls, Instagram, Snapchat, even email. She tried calling with hidden numbers. Nothing. She texted him from friends' phones. Blocked again. How dare he embarrass me like this? She fumed, pacing her small apartment. After everything I did for him. To her, Michael's silence meant he chose his wife over her, and that wounded her pride more than the rejection itself. She started stalking his social media. She visited the places they used to meet. She even went to his office building twice, hoping to bump into him. He avoided her perfectly. Amora felt cornered, desperate, humiliated. So she snapped and sent him one last message from a new number. If you don't talk to me, I'll make sure your wife and the world know everything. Michael read it and nearly fainted. He threw his phone across the bed, panicking. He didn't respond, too scared to fuel her anger, too ashamed to face the mess he created. And that silence pushed Amora deeper into madness. If she couldn't have him, she would destroy him. At 11:47 p.m., Ada Ora received a WhatsApp message from an unknown number. She opened it and froze slightly when she saw the name underneath, Amora. The message was short. We need to talk, woman to woman. Ada Ora stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed one word, where? They met the next afternoon at a quiet cafe. Amora walked in confidently at first, wearing tight jeans and red lipstick, but her confidence cracked the moment she saw Ada Ora. Calm, classy, composed, a woman who didn't need to shout to be powerful. So, you're the wife, Amora said, folding her arms. And you're the side chick, Ada Ora replied calmly. The bluntness destabilized Amora. She expected tears, drama, screaming. Instead, Ada Ora sipped her juice. What do you want? Ada Ora asked. I wanted to tell you who your husband really is. Ada Ora smiled faintly. My dear, you sent me on Nude. I already know. Amora blinked, thrown off balance. You're not angry. Ada Ora leaned forward slightly. Did you expect me to fight you in public? Break a bottle? Drag you by hair? That's your level, not mine. Amora's mouth fell open. You didn't win, Ada Ora added. You were just a distraction, one I now thank you for, because you helped me see my husband clearly. The words pierced Amora harder than insults. She came to provoke a reaction. Instead, she got maturity she couldn't fight. Let me give you advice, Ada Ora said, standing up. Heal your self-esteem, because a woman who values herself doesn't settle for leftovers. Amora felt her throat tighten. For the first time, she had no comeback. Ada Ora walked out elegantly, leaving Amora drowning in her own shame. Michael noticed immediately Ada Ora was changing. Not slowly, rapidly. She began wearing new clothes, going out more, laughing more, posting subtle quotes about strength and independence on WhatsApp. People complimented her glow. She started looking like the woman he met years ago, only stronger, sharper, untouchable. Michael became the insecure one, the nervous one, the clingy one. He constantly checked her WhatsApp last seen, asked where she was going, tried to have long conversations she wasn't interested in. He even started cooking for her, something he had never done. But Ada Ora only responded with polite, distant words. His biggest nightmare came when he overheard two neighbors talking outside. That Ada Ora woman has changed. She's glowing. I hope her husband knows what he has. If he doesn't, someone else will. Michael nearly choked. That night, he approached Ada Ora carefully. Babe, can we spend time together this weekend? I'm busy. Busy with what? Things I should have been doing for myself long ago. He felt the burn of those words deep in his chest. This was his biggest fear, losing her without her physically leaving. Amora, feeling rejected, blocked, and humiliated, decided she would no longer sit quietly. If Michael wanted peace, he had chosen the wrong woman to cheat with. She contacted a gossip blog and sent screenshots of their chats. The blogger asked for proof of Michael's identity. Amora didn't have enough. She grew angrier. How dare they treat me like I'm irrelevant, she hissed. She needed something bigger, something public, something explosive, something that would shake Michael's entire world. So she planned it meticulously. She found where he worshipped, found the church service time, and on a bright Sunday morning, with her phone fully charged and her anger fully loaded, she wore her most dramatic outfit and walked straight into the middle of the church as service was ongoing. The ushers tried to stop her. She pushed them aside. "Michael," she shouted, her voice echoing through the quiet congregation. "Tell the church who you are. Tell them what you've been doing." Gasps filled the hall. Heads turned. Michael froze. Ada Aura looked at him calmly. Amora held up her phone dramatically and screamed, "Tell them, or I will." The whole church erupted in chaos. The church froze. Even the choir stopped mid-song. All eyes turned to the embarrassed ushers trying to contain Amora, who shoved them away and marched straight down the aisle like a woman possessed. Michael felt his blood pressure spike so hard his vision blurred. Sweat covered his forehead. His legs trembled from pure fear. "Michael, stand up." Amora screamed, "Tell your pastor and your wife who you truly are." Gasps echoed everywhere. Mothers covered their children's ears. Elderly women clutched their purses. The pastor, an older man known for his calm spirit, stepped forward. "Young lady, this is God's house." "Exactly," she snapped. "So let the truth be spoken in God's house." She lifted her phone and waved it dramatically. "If you don't talk, I'll show everything on this screen. Every message, every picture, every secret you told me." Michael felt his knees weaken. But Ada Aura was calm. Too calm. She stood up slowly, her steps controlled, her face unreadable. She walked down the aisle toward Amora, and the entire church held its breath. "Show it," Ada Aura said softly. The entire church gasped at once. Amora blinked, confused. She expected anger, tears, rage, not this composed confidence. "Show everything," Ada Aura repeated. "If you came to embarrass me, then do it properly. Don't shout. Show them." Amora froze. Her plan was falling apart. She hadn't expected the wife to confront her boldly. She stuttered. He lied to me. He promised." Ada Aura interrupted calmly. "You're not the victim here. You knew he was married." The truth struck Amora like lightning. The pastor raised his hand sharply. "Ushers, escort her outside. Immediately." Amora struggled as they dragged her out, screaming insults and threats. But the damage was done. Michael stood there in shame, the entire church staring at him like he was a criminal. His reputation collapsed in seconds. "Cummer." Michael wanted the ground to swallow him. The pastor's voice echoed through the church. "Brother Michael, we will discuss this privately after the service." Everyone avoided eye contact with him. Everyone except Ada Aura, whose calm expression hurt more than any slap could. After church, whispers followed him to the parking lot. "I knew something was off with that man. So shameful. To cheat and let the side chick cause drama in church." Michael's body felt like lead. He tried to reach Ada Aura, but she walked ahead without saying a word. When they got home, he finally broke. He sank onto the floor, crying uncontrollably. "Ada Aura, please. I've disgraced you. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." She sat opposite him, unmoved. "I'm not the one you should be apologizing to," she said. "You should apologize to yourself for sinking this low." Her words hit harder than a punch. Michael felt small, stupid, ashamed. He begged again, tears streaming down his face. "Please don't stop loving me. Please don't give up on us." But Ada Aura simply stood up and walked away to her room. Her silence crushed him more than Amora's scandal ever could. Amora stormed out of the church feeling victorious, until reality hit. Her phone blew up with messages, not from Michael, but from people mocking her, dragging her, insulting her. By evening, someone had already posted her church outburst on TikTok. The video went viral, hundreds of comments calling her shameless, desperate, foolish. Her family saw the video. Her mother called, crying, begging her to come home. Her siblings mocked her. At work the next morning, HR called her in. "Your behavior online is affecting our brand. We're letting you go. It felt like her world was collapsing piece by piece. And the worst part? Michael still refused to speak to her. She sent him voice notes, crying, apologizing, begging, but he never opened them. She became a joke, a warning lesson, a viral topic for all the wrong reasons. The same man she fought for now treated her like she didn't exist. For the first time, Amara understood something painful. She was never fighting for love. She was fighting for validation. And she lost everything in the process. Meanwhile, Ada Aura was becoming the complete opposite of Amara. Women admired her strength. Her calmness in the face of humiliation became a topic of discussion. She was invited to women's seminars, relationship panels, and empowerment sessions. People wanted to hear her story, not the messy parts, but the way she handled everything with grace. Her social media grew. Brands started sending her PR packages. She became a quiet celebrity. Michael watched from the sidelines as his wife transformed into a confident, glowing, unstoppable woman. She began dressing better, speaking boldly, earning more money, and building networks he didn't even know she had access to. One night, Michael saw her getting ready for a women's networking dinner. She wore a black dress that hugged her body perfectly. She looked powerful, unreachable. He whispered, "You look beautiful." She smiled politely. "Thank you." The thank you felt formal, cold. Michael realized he was no longer the center of her world, and it terrified him. For weeks, Michael lived with a knot in his chest. Adeora's silence forced him to think, really think, about who he had become. He started replaying moments he once ignored. The night she cried quietly beside him. The morning she tried to start conversations he brushed off. The dinner she cooked that he didn't appreciate. The slow fade of her smiles. He saw it all clearly now, and the guilt consumed him. One evening, he found an old photo album, their wedding pictures, honeymoon selfies, random moments of them laughing, playing, hugging. He broke down again, hugging the album to his chest. "How did I lose this woman?" he whispered. The truth was painful. He didn't lose her to another man. He lost her to his own stupidity. He thought the marriage was unshakable. He thought Adeora would always be there. But watching her rise while he drowned in guilt made him realize something terrifying. He wasn't afraid of losing his marriage. He was afraid of losing Adeora's love forever. Michael didn't just promise change. He lived it, day by day, step by step, sometimes crying, sometimes shaking, sometimes exhausted, but consistent. He went to therapy weekly and returned home with pages of notes about accountability, childhood wounds, attachment trauma, communication flaws. He shared them with Adeora without shame. He deleted numbers, emails, hidden conversations, and changed his routines. He sent messages to old friends admitting his mistakes. He allowed himself to be corrected. He humbled himself. Adeora saw the change, but she didn't reward him immediately. Healing isn't a switch. Trust doesn't restart because someone feels sorry. She watched him silently, observed, measured patterns. He didn't get irritated, didn't lash out, didn't behave defensive. One evening he cooked her favorite meal. It tasted terrible, but it made her laugh so hard her stomach hurt. Another night, he opened up completely, telling her every detail of the affair with no sugarcoating. She cried quietly. He cried harder. It was painful but cleansing. Slowly, conversations became easier. They took evening walks. They prayed together, went to counseling sessions. Michael joined a men's fellowship to stay accountable. Adeora didn't forgive quickly, but she began letting her guard down. Not fully, just enough for air to enter again. One night, after months of slow rebuilding, she fell asleep on his chest while watching a movie. And that night, Michael stayed awake most of the time, staring at the woman he almost lost, holding her carefully like she was made of glass and gold. It happened on a quiet afternoon. Adeora's phone vibrated with a voice note from an unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something told her to listen. She pressed play. It was Amora's voice, but it sounded different. Softer, calmer, broken but rebuilding. Adeora, I don't know if you'll even listen to this. I just want to say thank you. You saved me in a way I didn't understand before. Your strength changed me. Your silence changed me. Your calmness changed me. The voice note continued. I'm back in school. I joined a mentorship program. I cut off every toxic person in my life. I'm healing. I'm growing. And I pray God blesses your marriage, because you handled the storm in a way only a strong woman can. Ada Ora listened twice. Something warm pressed against her chest. Not forgiveness, but closure. Michael walked in and saw her listening. She played it for him. As the voice note ended, tears filled his eyes. Not out of sympathy for Amora, but out of gratitude for Ada Ora's grace. You didn't just save this marriage, he whispered. You saved me. I would have destroyed myself without you. Ada Ora didn't speak, but for the first time, she reached out and held his hand. And for the first time in months, she didn't pull away. A year later, Ada Ora was invited to speak anonymously on a women's empowerment platform. She didn't share the scandal. She didn't expose the affair. She didn't mention names. She shared lessons, raw, real, powerful. Healing is slow. Forgiveness isn't weakness. Silence can be strength. Betrayal can break you, but it can also rebuild you. You don't lose value because someone failed to see it. And sometimes, the strongest thing a woman can do is become wiser instead of bitter. The video went viral. Millions of views. Thousands of comments praising her emotional intelligence and power. People didn't know it was her story, but they felt the authenticity in every word. And beside her, holding her hand, was a man who once nearly lost her but had fought with everything in him to earn back her trust. Their marriage wasn't perfect, but it was real. And the final message of the viral video was simple, the line that made everyone pause. A woman's silence is not surrender. Sometimes it's strategy. Sometimes it's wisdom. And sometimes it's the beginning of a rebirth.